in a piece released from Inverse, which I'm really enjoying. If you're ever listening to this, or if you're anyone from Inverse, the new editorial platform looks amazing and the content is great. This week they released a piece that focused on 25 celebrities who not only love to play Dungeons and Dragons, but talk about how D&D has actually impacted their lives. So I definitely encourage you to check out the piece at inverse.com, linked down below, of course, and in the show notes for the podcast. But we know there are some celebrity names that keep popping up in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. You know, Joe Manganiello, Deborah Ann Wall, Steve Colbert, Vin Diesel. But what I really was interested in this piece are some of the ones that I was less familiar with. So to name a couple in the angle of the article, Jon Favreau was talking about how it inspired or helped him trigger helped him tap into imagination and imaginative storytelling, and helped him learn how to create tone and balance. And of course, we know where Jon Favreau went, both on the acting and directing side of the screen. Another one was Greg Grunberg, who was recently a featured cameo in the last 2 Star Wars films, more so in Rise of Skywalker. But you might know him better from his hero's persona as telepath Matt Parkman. So you recognize him if you see him, but he credits his beginnings as an actor to playing Dungeons and Dragons. And actually, Matt has a Twitch live stream at Socialtron Live, if you want to check him out too, where he and some buds play tabletop games primarily. So that's always interesting to me when celebrities are doing this great work, but they're also playing on the same streaming platforms that we create content for every day. Third one that I found really interesting was Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who, of course, from lots of places, but most notoriously in my history, Third Rock from the Sun. That might be dating myself, but it is what it is. And he credits his involvement in Dungeons and Dragons and Magic as his inspiration for creating the collaborative media content platform Hit Record, which is a really great kind of upstream for video content creators too. Of course, all the other wonderful things that Joseph Gordon-Levitt has done in his broad and long career as a performer. So that got me thinking about a lot of the conversations that I've had with community interviews on Speaking Common, and just casual conversations I've had with friends of mine as we grow through our lives with this game and into our careers. And it got me thinking about the impact that it's had on my life. I began playing Dungeons and Dragons back in the 80s with 1st and 2nd edition, or AD&D Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And it was really that. I was brought in by a friend whose brother played, and his brother ran us through a little campaign. We actually walk around his house with our little graph paper and map out the dungeon that suspiciously mirrored his second floor. But from there, I really started to play more regularly, and I spent a lot of summers with great friends and meeting new friends. And from there, I started to read the books, and I got really heavily involved in this descriptive narrative. And in hindsight, that has definitely had a tremendous impact on where I am as a professional and as a creative marketer. It's affected how I present and how I build presentations and pitches, and how I bring storytelling into my craft as well. There are times when I find myself in a boardroom and I'll lay something out on the table figuratively, and I'll look back on it and say, yeah, that was definitely a D&D thing. Or I'll even use language and vernacular that comes from my experience running campaigns at the table. Most frequently, what I use is the ability to think on my feet, react in a moment, retain information, and be able to recall it later in a way that is strictly improvisational. And to think that at one point they literally thought the devil was doing this to people. Anyway, hit me up on Twitter at @ShamBasilGames, because I truly love to hear genuinely how D&D has helped impact, shape, or benefit or change your lives.